There are sounds you're trained to recognize in war: gunfire, mortars, engines in the distance, even the silence that follows an explosion. That brief moment where every soldier checks his body before anything else. That silence has a shape to it. It's familiar, predictable, manageable, but there is another kind of sound. One that doesn't belong to any battlefield. And if you ever hear it, the problem isn't that you don't understand it, you don't understand. The problem is that it understands you. In early 2004, a U.S. Army engineering unit was assigned to inspect a site southeast of Mosul. Routine work: check the ground, scan for hidden compartments, make sure insurgents weren't using old structures as cover. Nothing unusual. That's what the paperwork said. 11 men, one location, no expected contact. When they arrived, nothing immediately stood out. At least, nothing obvious. The terrain was dry, broken, quiet in the way desert land often is. But something was off. Sergeant First Class Derek Holloway noticed it first. There were no birds, not one. That might sound insignificant, but experienced soldiers learn the environment without realizing it. They notice patterns, movement, sound, absence, and here, something was missing. The air didn't feel empty. It felt held, like the environment itself was waiting. Ground's wrong. That came from Staff Sergeant Marcus Tillman. He crouched, pressing his hand into the soil. It's denser, like something's been running underneath for a long time. They assumed the usual: a buried generator, a hidden tunnel, insurgent activity. They were wrong. They began clearing the site. At first it was just rubble. Fragments of brick, compacted earth, debris from something long gone. Then metal appeared. Dark, curved, smooth beneath layers of dirt. They uncovered more, and slowly, the shape revealed itself. A face, not carved in stone, cast in bronze. Massive, far larger than any human head should be. It was partially buried at an angle, as if it had been forced into the ground rather than placed there. The features weren't stylized the way classical sculptures usually are. They weren't idealized. They were deliberate, heavy brow, eyes closed, not peacefully, but intentionally. Mouth slightly open, as if it had been frozen mid-sentence. Specialist Yusuf Okafor stepped closer. He wasn't the unit's official archaeologist, but he had studied it, enough to recognize when something didn't fit. He brushed dirt away from the surface. That's when he saw the markings. Fine lines pressed into the bronze. Cuneiform, ancient, carefully etched across the face. He read it, and for a brief moment, something in him changed. His posture, his breathing, the way his hand tightened around his notebook. He wrote the translation down. Then he closed the notebook, walked back to Holloway, and lied. Ceremonial text, he said. Nothing important. What he actually read was this: do not lift what remembers. He knew it mattered. He also knew it wouldn't stop them. The team ran a ground scan. The results came back almost immediately. There was a cavity beneath the object, deep, structured, not natural. That changed things, because now, this wasn't just debris. It was a potential hiding place, which meant they had to proceed. They continued excavation. More of the object emerged. It wasn't just a face, it was a full bust. Shoulders, upper torso, covered in the same etched script. The craftsmanship was precise, too precise. This wasn't decorative, it was functional. That's when the first sound appeared. Faint, barely noticeable, easy to dismiss. Okafor heard it before anyone else. At first, he ignored it. The human brain is good at filtering noise, wind, machinery, distant echoes. He told himself it was nothing. Then it happened again. This time, it wasn't random. It had structure, pattern, cadence. It sounded like speech. Not English, not Arabic, not anything he recognized, but unmistakably, language. He waited, because that's what discipline demands. One anomaly is noise. A repeated anomaly is data. When it happened again, he walked to Holloway. Calm, controlled. He didn't raise his voice. "Sir, press your helmet against the metal. Just listen." It was an unusual request, but Holloway wasn't the kind of man who ignored data. He stepped forward, placed the side of his Kevlar helmet against the bronze. 4 seconds. Then he pulled back. Something behind his expression shifted. Not fear, not confusion. Recognition. Double-ish, or ENCH. 2. Up front. Tillman stepped in. He pressed his helmet against the surface, held it there longer. When he pulled back, he didn't look at anyone. He just said, "That's not an echo." He was right. An echo requires a source. This didn't. It was coming from inside the object, one by one. The rest of the team tested it. Each man stepping forward. Each one making contact. Each one stepping back. Changed. No one laughed. No one dismissed it. Because they were all hearing the same thing. Voices, not one, many. Layered over each other. Some sounded close, too close, like someone speaking just inches away. Others felt distant, as if they were coming from far deeper than the object itself. The space didn't match the size. At some point, one of the younger soldiers spoke without thinking. "There's people in there." No one corrected him, because it felt true. The voices weren't random noise. They carried intent, urgency. Not panic, not chaos. Communication, like people trying to say something important before running out of time. At that moment, Holloway had a decision to make. Leave it, or extract it. His orders were clear, documented. Clear, so he chose to proceed. They rigged the straps, secured the structure, prepared to lift. As tension built, the ground resisted. Then shifted, then gave way. The object broke free, and everything changed. The sound intensified, stronger, clearer. And then, the radios died. Not static, not interference, complete silence. At the same time, something else happened. One of the soldiers, WRENCH4, was no longer in position. He was standing near the object, closer than he should have been, helmet pressed against it. No one saw him move. Holloway called his name. He turned slowly. His expression wasn't fear. It wasn't panic. It was focus. Like someone on the edge of understanding something just out of reach. He blinked, stepped back. "I don't remember," he said. And then the sound changed again. This time, everyone heard it. No helmet, no contact. Just air. The ground itself was carrying it now. Voices rising from below. Clearer than before. Closer. "Sir, we need to leave." That came from one of the men on perimeter. It wasn't a suggestion. It was instinct. For the first time, Holloway hesitated. This wasn't equipment failure. This wasn't insurgent activity. This was something else. Okafor spoke next. Quiet, controlled. "He's right." That was enough. "Lower it. Leave it, we move now." The order was immediate. Clean. They began pulling back. Controlled withdrawal. No panic. Just speed. But Holloway stayed a moment longer. He stepped to the edge of the exposed cavity. Looked down. And what he saw, he would later describe in 4 words. Cavity not empty. Bones. 12 of them, not scattered, not collapsed, seated, arranged in a perfect circle facing inward, spines upright, heads tilted back, all of them oriented toward the same point, toward where the mask had been. They hadn't been placed there after death. They had died there, in position, speaking into it. And in that moment, everything aligned. This wasn't a statue. It was a device, a recorder, built to capture the final words of the dying. And now, it was playing them back, but something about it felt wrong, because the sound wasn't fading. It was growing, more urgent, more focused, as if it wasn't just replaying the past, as if it was trying to reach something or someone. And for the first time, Holloway understood something he couldn't explain. They hadn't found it. It had been waiting for them. They pulled out fast, not running, not panicked, just controlled movement, the kind drilled into muscle memory after years of repetition. Weapons up, eyes scanning. No one breaking formation, but something followed them, not physically, not in any way they could measure. The sound didn't stop, even as they moved away from the site, even as distance should have weakened it. It remained, faint, persistent, like something staying just within reach. No one spoke about it at first, because saying it out loud would make it real. The radios were still dead, no static, no signal, just a hollow absence where communication should have been. That alone was enough to unsettle them. Then, just as suddenly as it had cut out, the radios came back. Clean, perfect signal, no transition, no distortion, just silence, and then normal. One of the soldiers keyed his mic, hesitated, then said quietly, "It let us go." No one responded, dead, but no one disagreed. They returned to base without incident. No contact, no engagement. On paper, it was routine. But the moment they stepped off the vehicles, something shifted again. It started small, subtle, double, RE, and CH4, the one who had been found at the artifact, kept touching the side of his helmet over and over, as if checking for something or listening for something that wasn't there anymore. When someone asked him what he heard back there, he gave the same answer every time. "I don't remember." Not "I can't explain it." Not "I'm not sure." "I don't remember." But that wasn't true. You could see it in his face. He remembered something. He just didn't have access to it anymore. The debrief was scheduled quickly, faster than usual. A small room, temporary structure, fluorescent lighting humming overhead. Nothing unusual about the setting. But the people inside were different. A major, standard, expected, and a civilian. No name given, no introduction, just attached specialist. That was enough to tell them everything they needed to know. This wasn't routine anymore. Holloway gave his report. Precise, controlled, no speculation. He described the object, the excavation, the cavity, the sound. He didn't exaggerate, didn't dramatize, just facts. When he finished, the room stayed quiet for a few seconds longer than it should have. Then the major nodded once. "The site will be handled by a specialized team. Your unit's involvement is complete." That was it. No follow-up questions about the sound. No discussion about the bones. No concern about the equipment failure. Just closure. Too clean. Holloway noticed it immediately. But he didn't push, because pushing in that kind of room doesn't get you answers. It gets you removed. "Submit all logs and recordings," the major added. "Everything related to the site. Holloway dead. Id. Officially." What he didn't submit was his personal journal. Every experienced NCO keeps one, not for regulation, for accuracy. For accuracy. Because official records can change. Personal ones don't. Across the base, The rest of the unit went through separate evaluations. Medical checks, psychological screening, standard procedure. But the questions were different. Did you hear anything unusual? Did you feel disoriented? Did you experience any memory gaps? Not, did you encounter enemy activity that told them everything? W, R, E, and C, H. 4 was flagged for observation. During his time in the medical bay, something happened. Something small, but important. At some point, he picked up a pen, rolled up his sleeve, and began writing on his own forearm. Carefully, deliberately, not random marks, not panic behavior, language. When the medic noticed, he asked him what he was doing. WRE and CH. 4 looked down at his arm, confused. I didn't do that. But he had. The writing wasn't English. It wasn't Arabic. It wasn't anything anyone there could identify. It was photographed, documented, and then it disappeared from the record. Within days, things began to fragment. The operation log was updated, rewritten, same date, same unit, different outcome, routine assessment. No anomalies. Even the coordinates were shifted, moved just enough to place the site somewhere empty, featureless, meaningless, like it had never existed. Holloway saw the updated file months later, compared it to his own notes. They didn't match. Not even close. But he said nothing, because by then he understood. This wasn't an error, it was intentional. About a day after their mission, the specialized team arrived. They didn't announce themselves, didn't brief anyone. They just showed up. Unmarked vehicles, civilian clothing, but military posture. The kind of people who move like they have worn a uniform long enough, that I don't need to anymore. One of them carried a containment case, heavy duty, sealed, not for transport, for isolation. They left base without explanation and returned hours later. The flatbed they brought with them was heavier on the way back. No one needed confirmation. The object was gone. Whatever had been in that desert was no longer there, and officially it had never been there at all. But something didn't add up. Because if it was just an artifact, why the containment? Why the silence? Why rewrite the entire operation? And most importantly, why did it take them over a full day to retrieve it? That question stayed with Holloway, because he knew exactly how long the object had been exposed. He knew how long it had been sitting there, in open air, uncovered, speaking, with no one listening, or maybe no one they could see. Back at base, the changes continued. Subtle at first, then harder to ignore. One soldier requested reassignment. No explanation, just paperwork. Another started having sleep disturbances, woke up multiple times a night, said he felt like someone was talking, just out of reach. Where E and CH4 stopped talking about the incident entirely, not avoidance. Absence, like that part of his memory, had been removed, not suppressed, erased. And Okafor started digging, quietly, carefully. He went back to what he knew. Texts, research, fragments of history. What he found made everything worse. There were references, scattered, incomplete, ancient structures, designed not to honor the dead, but to capture them. Not physically, vocally. The idea was simple, terrifying. When a soldier was dying, his final words mattered, not spiritually, strategically. He had seen things. He knew things, information that couldn't be lost. So they built chambers, placed the dying inside, positioned them beneath resonant structures, and let them speak. The structure above, Kai, putured the sound, stored it, held it, not perfectly, not cleanly, but enough to preserve intent, emotion, urgency, enough to be heard again, later, much later. Okafor stopped reading after that, because the implication was clear. The mask wasn't broken. It was working, exactly as designed. And when they lifted it, they didn't activate it. They completed it. They gave it what it needed. Release, and whatever had been held inside it, for centuries, was no longer contained. Time passed. That's what the official record shows. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. The incident at ARCH Site-7 disappeared into paperwork buried under routine operations and shifting priorities. On the surface, everything moved on. But the men didn't. It didn't hit them all at once. There was no single moment where everything broke. Instead, it came in fragments. Small things, subtle at first. A sound that wasn't there, but almost was. A shape in peripheral vision that didn't resolve when you turned toward it. The feeling, not fear, but presence. Like something just outside your awareness, waiting for you to notice it. Holloway described it the simplest way. It's not loud. It's never loud. That's the problem. It started in quiet places. Early mornings, late nights, moments where the world dropped just enough in volume for something else to rise. At first, he thought it was memory. The brain replaying stress, filling silence with echoes of the past. But memory doesn't behave like that. Memory fades. It distorts. It weakens over time. This didn't. It stayed the same. The same layered texture, the same sense of urgency, and the same impossible detail. It wasn't in his ears. It was deeper. Like the sound wasn't being heard, it was being conducted. Through bone, through structure. Just like that day in the desert, others experienced it too. Though not all of them admitted it. One left to the service within a year. Another requested reassignment without explanation. A third, a combat engineer, had sections of his deployment record quietly altered, entire coordinates removed, as if certain places had never existed. But they had, and something from those places had come back with them. Holloway tried to ignore it. He focused on routine, structure, discipline, control. But there were moments he couldn't explain. Once, sitting alone in his apartment, he caught himself leaning forward, without realizing it, tilting his head slightly, like he was trying to get closer to something. That's when it hit him. It wasn't random. The sound responded to proximity, not distance and space, but distance and attention. The more you focused, the clearer it became, and once you noticed that, you couldn't unnotice it. Okafor had it worse, because he understood more. He knew what the mask was, what it was built to do, and more importantly, what it needed. He stopped sleeping properly, started isolating himself, spent hours going over the same translations, the same fragments of text, looking for something he missed, some warning he hadn't understood in time. But every path led back to the same idea. The structure wasn't passive. It wasn't just storing sound. It was designed to preserve intent. And intent doesn't disappear. It waits. Months later, something new surfaced, not in the field, not in the military, in a museum, a private institution in Europe. A new artifact had been added to their Near Eastern collection. No public announcement, no major press coverage, just a quiet addition. A bronze ceremonial bust, large, ancient, unusually well preserved. Its documented origin was vague. Donated, anonymous benefactor, minimal provenance. But one researcher noticed something. The alloy. It didn't match typical compositions from the period. Not exactly. Close enough to pass, different enough to raise questions. He ran tests. non-invasive. Acoustic analysis. What he found didn't make sense. When exposed to specific vibrations, the object responded, not randomly, not like normal resonance. The output changed, shifted, like it had internal variation, structure. He described it in a single word: texture. Not sound, noise. Texture. Layered, complex, almost responsive. He reached out, tracked down anyone connected to similar artifacts. Eventually, he found Holloway. Sent a message. Detailed, careful. He didn't mention anything supernatural, didn't make claims. Just described the behavior, the response patterns, the anomalies. And then he asked a simple question: "Have you encountered anything like this before?" Holloway read the message and didn't respond, because he already knew the answer. He knew exactly what the object was, where it came from, and what it had been doing before it ever reached that museum. He thought about the time gap, the period between their withdrawal and the recovery team's arrival, the hours the mask had been exposed, open, active, speaking, with no one there to hear it, or maybe no one they could see. A few weeks later, a package arrived. No return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper, covered in writing, not English, not Arabic, something older. Below it, a translation, handwritten, Okafor's handwriting. It read, "The face remembers who stood before it, nothing else. No explanation, no context. Just that." Holloway didn't try to contact him, because some things, once confirmed, don't need further discussion. Years passed. The museum remained open. Visitors came and went. They walked past glass cases, paused, leaned in. Curiosity is instinctive. People always move closer to what they don't understand. They read the small plaques. Look at the craftsmanship, the age, the detail, and sometimes, without too thinking, they press closer, forehead near the glass, just for a second, just to get a better look. And that's all it takes, because the mask was never dependent on Kevlar. That was just the first condition it encountered. What it needed was density, a medium that didn't absorb vibration, but carried it. Glass works, bone works better, and once the connection is made, it doesn't need to be repeated, because the sound doesn't fade, it doesn't weaken, it stays quiet, patient, layered with voices that have been trying to say the same thing for 2,000 years. Not screaming, not demanding, just continuing, waiting for someone to listen closely enough to understand. And maybe that's the part no one accounted for. Not the recording, not the preservation, but the transfer. Because if something can be held for that long, if it can survive time, pressure, burial, then maybe it was never meant to stay contained. Maybe it was always meant to move from one listener to the next. And if that's true, then the artifact in that museum isn't the source. It's just the latest place the voices are being carried through, which means the real question isn't, what is it? The real question is, how many people are already hearing it and haven't realized yet that it isn't a memory, it's not imagination, and it isn't going away, because the face remembers, and now, so do you.